Last episode was fun, wasn't it? In case you missed it, here's what's happened. And unfortunately, it wasn't all sunshine and cauliflowers. Here's why.
This is great banter. It really is.
Now, if I was driving a Volkswagen Touareg, that would probably be an engine out job, because it's basically leaking out of the weep hole on the water pump, which is right there. And on this car, replacing the water pump is about a half-hour job. But I'm not doing that today, because I have bigger issues. That was actually a lie. I'm going to do the water pump now. So, step 1 in replacing a water pump. Get a water pump. So here's my water pump, in all its glory. And as we all know, this is going to be the most impossibly difficult task to do. How do I know this? Because the comments have told me how difficult these engines are to work on, especially in a patrol chassis.
Bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam.
Water pump, done. And it was incredibly easy. But I'm not doing that today, because I have bigger issues. And one of these bigger issues was engine driving stuff related. Now, more specifically, here's the main issue. Excuse the beeps. Now, along this side is where it should say PRNDS to correspond with this PRNDS. Now that might make you think, oh, my transmission module must be a dead one. And you'd probably be right if it wasn't for the obvious signs. Now, after scanning with my extremely overpriced cable, 3 modules came up as completely dead and invisible. And these are ABS module, transfer case 4-wheel drive module thing, and finally, the transmission module. Now, if it was just one of those modules, I'd be scurrying around looking at fuses, because each module is individually fused on these cars, as you can tell by the extreme number of fuse boxes in them. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh no, 3 dead modules. This car must be ready for the skip. Back to the chair again. I suspect relays. Because relays typically control more than one thing, and they only really control the power going to the modules. No power, no modules. No power to the relay, no power to several modules. Now, after spending an extremely long time looking at wiring diagrams for these modules, I found that these modules are in a very easy to reach place. Which is right there. This module should control ABS, transfer case, and gearbox controller. Now, best case scenario. The fuse for this relay has blown. Or the relay is buggered. And for some reason, to me, that seems unlikely. But stranger things have happened. For example, when this little nugget decided to die while it was just idling, and then the coil decided to just kill itself for some reason. So as with anything, start with the basics and work your way to the harder stuff. Passenger seat comes out. So we'll start off with the low-hanging fruit. Now, to me, that's all the fuses working as they should. And this is the little relay that I suspect to be the problem, or at least this circuit. So this is the relay. They're pretty simple devices. Nice little wiring diagram so you can't mess up how to wire them up, and all it is basically an electromagnet. You've got 2 signal wires and 2 main high voltage wires. And when these signal wires tell this relay to close, it connects these 2 wires here. So to eliminate the variable, replace it with this. And already that looks like it's done some things. Let's turn the key and see what happens. So if I'm as good as I think I am, I should be able to plug this key in here, turn it, and I should see some... nothing happen. Oh, there we go. There we go, now we have PRNDS. Isn't that wonderful news? And my shifter actually does things. Now I'm guessing these are all highlighted because this is a V6 control module, because remember I left the original ones in the driver's seat when I sold the body of the car. But this is at least going to give me a nice starting point so I can reprogram these modules. Now what you probably won't have realised from the test drive video is that the car was not actually changing gear. The gearbox and transfer case modules were completely dysfunctional and it was driving in a ghost form. But aside from that, that's the main issue of the car. Runs, boosts, drives wonderfully. Now I'm just going to confirm that I do in fact have bigger issues than this relay. So this is it with the cap off. What you have there is a magnetized coil and a contactor on this side. Now when that coil's energized, it's going to make this little contact here, which is what should turn on all my modules that are having problems. So, assuming I'm not an idiot, this on here, this should cause it to energize. And as you can see, it's working properly. Now what this means is unfortunately I have bigger issues. The signal wire that happens when I turn the key is not giving the signal to turn on that relay. But this is barely an issue because I can bypass it for now, and worst case, I can just bridge that signal wire off another relay that does come on with the ignition, so I'm not too concerned. So, computer mode. With any luck, if I now auto-scan all the modules, it should now detect the transfer case, gearbox controller, and ABS module. Well, here's a bit of joy. Functioning gear selector achieved. So, terminal 15 controls this. 5 wires there. Trace them back. Unfortunately, I've had to unpick all this loom wrapping that I did in the last few episodes, but I was able to find this. This was a slightly corroded junction. I've just twizzled this together for the purpose of experimentation. And now when I turn the key, I'm getting the Prindus. So I consider that fixed. It's pretty convenient when your ECU not only tells you what modules are not working, but also the very specific wires that also aren't working. Just saying. Now I'll switch to phone camera for this, for significant milestone in the form of gear changes. And if I can get this thing to change from first to second gear, regardless of how it does it, I'll be the happiest boy alive. Nope. So this is where we find out if I have gears. There's that little thing there that says D1. If that moves, then we're winning. Oh, that shifted. Fuck yes! I wish I could describe how fast this thing feels right now. If you've ever ridden a KTM 450 in first gear, that's about it. There's so much that it wants to give. Why am I in fourth gear? Nope, that's shifting perfectly. Excellent. I might give it something on the way back down. Fucking hell. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But seeing as this car is going to be a fully all-singing, all-dancing, road-registered and legal vehicle, I have to put this on. So this is an offset muffler. If you don't know why it's called an offset muffler, then that's your problem. Anyway, this is going to fit somewhere about there. So I'm going to have to make all the appropriate mounts and pipework to make this fit in place. And to help me deal with that, I have this set of exhaust rubbers and this little clampy thing, which is going to be a temporary thing. As well as this piece of pipe which I have as a spare, which happens to fit exactly where I need it to and has the perfect angle. That was another lie. Basically, I don't want to make exhausts. If you want to watch me make an exhaust, watch that video. Now I was planning to do a section on how I connect the wiring loops from the Touareg to the Nissan, and all I've done so far is connect one wire from one side of the engine bay to a wire on the other side of the engine bay. And the result of that one wire is this. Irritatingly, everything works. So all it took was connecting one wire, and that wouldn't make for very good content, obviously. Instead, I'm going to do something that I think is very cool with this thing. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you will be asking yourselves, where's my handbrake? Why, it's right here. Thanks for asking. And that's never going to fit in this car. And as you can see, the place where the handbrake is supposed to go is full of center console. And that can't really change because all of my modules are hidden in here, and it wouldn't go with the aesthetics. And this is where we come back to this funky little contraption. This is basically the quick disconnect for the sway bar, and it only operates the rear sway bar, which you can argue is the most useless sway bar disconnect to have. And basically this is mounted in your car somewhere, you pull the lever, and the sway bar disconnects. Then when you want to reconnect it, you do this. And what you find is when you pull this, you can't push it back in again until you do this, almost like a handbrake. So my plan is to MacGyver this into this, sacrificing my sway bar disconnect, and turn it into a handbrake. Handbrake. But wait, there's more. This Nissan Patrol gearbox came with a transmission brake from factory. There's a transmission handbrake. And the transmission that's in this car now came out of a car that had handbrakes in the rear brake calipers. And what this naturally means is that both of these variations of vehicle have cancelled out each other's handbrakes, meaning that I basically have no provisions to have a handbrake at all. So I have to make my own. It's actually quite nice how this little thing works, actually. So on this side, it may be hard to see. There's kind of like a bolt arrangement, a bit like a bolt-action rifle. If you pull it straight out, the ratcheting mechanism in there prevents these little teeth from sliding back in. And using this bolt mechanism, you give it a twist, and what that in turn is disengages those teeth there, allowing you to push it back in. I like things like this. Shut up. There we go, now we have PRNDS. Isn't that wonderful news?